show me what it's like to fulfill a fantasy. And I don't know if I can change your mind, but I'll do it anyway. But I don't know if I can change your mind, but I'll do it anyway. I'll go to hell and back for you. Watch while I'm busting the flames forward. You put me through. I'll go to hell and back for you. Watch while I'm busting the flames forward. You put me through. One for me. Where do I press repeat? I know it's crazy, but no one knows you better than me. And I don't know if I could change your mind. I don't know if I could change your mind. I don't know if I could change your mind. I'll go to hell and back for you. Watch while I'm busting the flames forward. You put me through. I'll go to hell and back for you. Watch while I'm busting the flames forward. You put me through.
Go. So here we are. We have the pleasure today of interviewing with New York and New Jersey mainstay. I think is probably a good word for you, isn't it? DJ Mindsolvent, currently resident at QXT's, as far as I know, as far as I remember. Bit of a world-renowned club over in Newark. So, Q, thanks for doing this.
Sure thing, man.
Yeah. So let's kick off with a little bit of info about you, just for the people watching this. What first attracted you to the whole life as a DJ thing? It's always been a passion, or something you could get into?
You mean like when did I get into it? Or
yeah, I mean, how did you get into it? What sort of attracted you to it?
I started going to, I guess, goth industrial clubs in the early 90s in New York and New Jersey. And I became infatuated with all the industrial music that was coming out at that time, or more like in the late 80s into the early 90s on Wax Trax Records and Doth Amog and Antler Subway. And I fell in love with all of this stuff, and, you know, developed an infatuation with bands like Skinny Puppy and Ministry and the Revolting Cocks and Front 242. And, you know, and I started going to places in New York City, like Communion at this place called the Limelight.
Yeah, I know the Limelight. I remember that well.
That was a big place of mine, and I used to go see lots of industrial bands there. And there was another place called the Bat Cave, and then there was another legendary place on the New York's Lower East Side called the Bank. Yeah, and that was one of the first clubs I ever DJ'd at.
Oh, wow.
And so I had two different nights going on. I used to DJ. I was a recurring DJ on Friday nights at the Bank. And also we had a once a month Sunday party there called Atrocity.
Okay.
I used to DJ, and that's what kind of got my name out there, like in all the, like the Village Voice, like the New York papers. And I was floating around. I started floating around demo tapes that I was making in my bedroom of all of the new stuff that was coming out of the 90s for that style. And I parlayed it into like getting offered DJ gigs in New York and New Jersey. And ultimately, through my gigs DJing at the bank, I ended up becoming a DJ at QXT's in Newark, New Jersey, in November of 2001.
Nice.
And that club was very impressed me as far back as like the late 90s, because the people there were very into music. Like everybody there was buying all the newest like imports, like European imports. So the crowd there really knew their music. And I was always impressed with the knowledge.
Nice.
People didn't just go there and get drunk and dance. People that really knew their stuff.
Sweet.
And that crowd that greatly impressed me. So I jumped at the opportunity to DJ there.
I have fond memories of QXT's. It's a great venue. It's wonderful. Yeah, great time.
And so many great bands like sprung out of the regulars that hung out there, and there's just so many great bands that formed because of that club. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm proud to have, had my name stamped all over that place, for as many years, as I've been doing it. So.
But you know what, here's keep something funny for just for the people watching. Do you know what? I find a lot of the my favourite stories from club life come from the more annoying customers. You got any favourite funny stories you can share with us?
Oh, there's quite a few. There was this one didn't involve QXTs. This one involved a party that I used to DJ in New York City called Stimulate.
Right.
And it was run by a promoter named Chris Smack.
Yeah.
And,
good guy.
He had me, So I go back a little ways with him, but anyway, he had me in this downstairs area that was in front of a bathroom, and there was people. The dance floor was sort of kind of like at an angle to like the DJ booth and the bathroom. So you had people dancing, but trying to get to the bathroom and kind of crowding about the DJ booth. And I turned around and my mixer wasn't there, but the music was still playing. And it was nowhere. I thought somebody ran off with it. And I looked around, there were so many people there. I had no idea what the hell just happened, but the music was still playing. I think I was playing Informatic, actually. Somehow I remember that. And so I walked around the crowd just completely confused. And somebody had somehow managed to kick the mixer off of the DJ booth into the front of the bathroom. Well, I had to run through the crowd and actually pick up the mixer, stuff like that, but those parties were very crazy, very chaotic. And, when you DJ stuff like that, you learn to just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
Not let stuff bother you.
But you've got to love the crazy. Actually, that brings on nicely to the next question. I was going to ask you, how much is it you're looking forward to getting back out to the dance floor after all this pandemic rubbish goes away?
Wow. It's like I'm holding something in. Waiting to just burst. Yeah. What it feels, because it's a release for me, and I haven't really had that. I've been cooped up inside, for over a year now.
Wow.
So, yeah. But DJing on Twitch, it's there. People are out there. People, they still want to hear new music, even if they can't dance in a room full of 200 other people. So, yeah, it's still there. But I can't wait for this to end.
Yeah, I think that's the same with all of us. People often make a misinformed assumption about how much clubs and drugs go hand in hand. You have an opinion on
that? It depends on who you're friends with. A lot of my friends, I remember, like, even back in the 90s, especially in the 90s, like, we all drank and partied and whatnot, but we all kept the music first.
Yeah.
The music kind of central, so most of my friends are, never got too carried away with that stuff, because the music was just so important to them.
Yeah.
Or at least that's my experience.
Yeah, I think that's a fair experience. So Oh, sorry.
But believe me, like in New York, it's everybody. A lot of people I knew that got really like fucked up. They let the party and kind of, take over the music. And then if you turn around and where did they go? Oh, they don't do that anymore. they don't go out and dance anymore. And, you got to be careful. There's a lot of temptations. Like you got to be careful,
Yeah. Moderation is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, seen as a topic of this magazine is a CBD zine. You personally a fan of cannabis? If so, the question I was going to lead on to is, what do you think it's best used for? Recreational, medical? Has it benefited you personally in any ways?
I think it's most of my friends are pot smokers.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that it was illegal for so many years,
Right.
And finally in my home state of New Jersey, it's been decriminalized and we're going to have shops opening up, selling, so, but I just think it's ridiculous. I think there's no harm in it. When I was in high school, growing up in the 80s, people used to say like, oh, it's a gateway drug. It leads to heroin and cocaine. But most people I know nowadays, they don't do that stuff. They like smoke and drink, and they're perfectly good individuals.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with
Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with, recreational and people that have been sick. I know people that have health problems and it helps them out too, so. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't think anybody here or anybody watching this interview would disagree with you on that at all. I think there's definitely something that's, something that differs between the UK and the USA. Obviously, we haven't really decriminalized it. We get CBD over here, but there's no decriminalization. Personally, I think that would be a good thing because do you find there's better education when it's decriminalized or legalized, so people are more aware of what they're getting? So you can go to a store and say like, I want something to treat me for this, or the store can go, well, you don't want this. What you want is this. And people are getting the right treatment.
What do you mean exactly?
It's just when it's legalized, you find that it's just the people supplying it are better educated. Because obviously, if we want to get something like that over here, we've got to go to Joe Blogs on the corner of whatever street. Still.
Oh, I understand. I understand what you mean. Yeah, I mean I think it's better. I personally, I like supporting like legitimate business more than supporting a bunch of criminals.
Right.
So that's how I feel about that.
I think that was the point that was made in the interview we did last week with somebody over here, and he was saying like if you legalize it, you've suddenly just taken away the revenue from those gangs, and you've got people who are supplying it, the ones that know what strain suits what illness.
Yeah.
The education would be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, it'll be taxed into oblivion over here once they really start selling it. But my brother lives in Denver, like Colorado. And he said when they legalized it like 7 or 8 years ago, it pays for schools. It pays for highways. It's the amount of money that cannabis has generated in Colorado is just insane. I'm amazed that it took this long for them to do this in New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah.
But
this in Colorado has a lot of cannabis users.
Yeah.
But my brother, he says you would not believe it. Like highways, just the whole state infrastructure, like so much stuff has been paid for because of cannabis.
Yeah.
So
crazy, isn't it? Crazy. And the health benefits as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can make T-shirts out of it. You can make furniture. You can build houses out of it. You can probably cover roads in it and make a good place to drive. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
You ever have you ever investigated any of the substitutes? Because there's a lot of things like such as the oils, or there's synthetic cannabis. Have you found any of that to be effective at all, or is it not something you've ever experimented with?
I've never even tried.
No, fair enough. Well, I guess.
I mean, I've had a lot of experience with cannabis and THC and hash and whatnot, but yeah, I've never tried any of that other stuff though.
I guess you guys don't need to, do you? Because you've got the whole thing legalized and decriminalized over there. You're all good to go.
Yeah. Well, it's not. They don't have the shops open yet. They still have to iron out a lot of like red tape for that to happen. But yeah, you won't get arrested for smoking a joint now.
Good.
So I had friends that had to, like back in the 90s, I had friends that had to go to court, and pay, hire lawyers to defend themselves for getting arrested for, cannabis.
Crazy.
I'm glad that's behind us.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Roll on getting it done over here as well.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
But I remember going to Amsterdam, back in 2004, and I just remember thinking I could not believe that this was legal. Like it was just, growing up in the 80s, 'cause I was a cannabis user back in the 80s.
Right.
And it was, you had to hide that stuff from the cops. And it was just in Amsterdam, it was very much right out in the open.
Nice.
Yeah. That was very weird for me. And,
and yeah, it's about time that, your side and our side of the pond actually gets it the same way, I feel.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You got any preferred ways to take it? I mean, do you vape it, roll it into a spliff, or do you have it with tobacco, or do you have it as edibles, or any preferred?
When I do, it's usually just a bowl.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems to be effective, right?
Yeah. So when I was younger, it was more like, bong hits, or, bongs were very popular, but when I got older, just a bowl, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, let's see if we can drag the cannabis subject and your DJ history together. I mean, it's often been said that cannabis can enhance a person's enjoyment of music. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I mean, some bands, it enhances, your listening experience, like Underworld, for example, goes very well with cannabis.
Right. Any other recommendations? Underworld, anyone else?
Oh God, there's so many bands. A lot of the early 90s techno, like German tech, like on Tresor, that repetitive, like anything that's like repetitive, like Tresor, Underground Resistance,
Right.
Lab Work, RNS Records, D-Jacks, like all those old techno, they go very well with that, with that frame of mind.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
How about TV shows or movies? Any recommendations for that while you're stoned? Got any favorites?
And anything from the 70s.
Right. Okay. They did something right back then. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Starsky and Hutch, Brady Bunch, that stuff is just wired for that frame of mind. Like more the older it gets, it's pretty amusing. And just listen to the music on Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah. That's stoner funk.
Those had to have been made by people that were stoned.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that when I was a little kid, how much I liked that show. Like it was, wow. So
that was your gateway. Starsky and Hutch was your gateway.
Starsky and Hutch. Yeah. Wow.
Hey, you know what? Talking of that, Shaft, that's got to be a stoner track, isn't it? The theme from Shaft.
Which one?
Theme from Shaft.
Oh, yeah, Shaft. Oh, Isaac Hayes?
Yeah. That's got to be a stoner track and a stoner track.
Yeah. That's a classic.
Yeah, definitely.
You know. Yeah.
About,
But I've always been pretty eclectic with my music taste. So I like a lot of different stuff too. So, you know, and some, you know, like the Grateful Dead, for example, Dark Star, you know, that's a 25 minute song. I mean, that's another one. You know, I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of classic rock on top of a lot of like the new wave and, you know, electronic synth pop stuff that I listened to. So
cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So how about any funny stories? Any marijuana related funny stories that you've had from either watching people or yourself?
It was, man, I can't really think of any, to be honest. I just can't remember.
No, that's fair. Yeah, because your memory's not. Yeah.
Oh no, I do have one very funny story, but it's not really in the club realm. I remember back in the 90s, being in a car full of people that were stoned in New York City, like in the East Village. And my friend decided to go for a parking spot that was like 3 cars ahead of us. And then the person on the other side of the road decided to make an illegal U-turn into that parking spot. And then all the other cars were trying to get out of the way of us fighting over this parking spot. So this whole neighborhood, like this whole block, turned into a mess of people trying to get into this one parking spot. And ultimately, every single car just stopped and started honking. And we all just sat there and started laughing. And I just remember, you know, we were all laughing because nobody knew what to do.
Reaction. Yeah, you're not going to join in the fight if you're stoned, are you? You're just going to be finding it funny.
So I looked around and everybody was just laughing.
Yeah.
You know, I just remember we were all really stoned and, you know, it seemed funnier to me.
Yeah.
But somehow I always remember that, you know.
Nice.
But, you know, it was New York in the 90s, you know, I always have a lot of fond, crazy memories of New York then, you know. So.
Great time.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we should probably start wrapping this up before we end up waffling too much, because I'm sure we could shoot the shit and talk about old times for hours on end. Anything you want to add as a final thoughts, just to bring things up to a close?
Support new artists and support cannabis.
Yeah.
You know, support new Gothic industrial artists.
Yeah.
You know, so. And support cannabis. Cannabis should never be outlawed ever again. You know, so.
Of course not. Definitely not. All right. So listen, as well, if people want to check out your work, is there any links you want to share with people?
You can just go check out my Twitch feed. Go check me out on Twitch. You know, like a couple times a month. You know, right, QX.
What's the link if people are trying to look for you?
If you go like on your apps,
mm-hmm.
like on an iPhone or whatever, you know, if you go in your apps section, you can download Twitch.
Okay.
And
what do they search for if they're looking for your stuff?
Just type in QXTs.
Yeah.
In the search engine for Twitch, and you'll see me DJing up there a couple times a month.
Nice.
You know.
Nice. Well, let's hope people have some good times listening to that. So, Q, it's been a pleasure. It really has. And let's hope this craziness gets over and done with, and maybe one of us can get over the other side of the pond and do some work together again sometime. That'd be great.
We'll do. We shall cross paths again one day.
Yeah, definitely. Been a pleasure, man. I'll stay well, stay safe, all that kind of thing. And thanks for doing this.
We'll do. Yeah, no problem.